All right, before we go into our discussion of Osun politics and Osun election and looking forward to the rerun election on Thursday, let's touch another issue that affects Nigerians and Nigerians are looking forward to really with high expectation, that's the issue of the minimum wage. Now, this story contains flash photography. It's 13 days since organized labor issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government over the suspension of negotiation of the tripartite committee set up to review the minimum wage.
The United Labour Congress, after its Central Working Committee meeting held in Lagos, reminded the government of the ultimatum, which will expire on Wednesday. According to the ULC President, Joe Ajaero, organized labour will be meeting to discuss issues responsible for the impending strike.
Now, I don't know what they can do to finish and come to the negotiating table between now and Wednesday. And I'm aware that the minimum wage is almost a matter of politics. And the political undertone in the country has made the Senate to adjourn for 2 weeks again. That even if the Senate decides to reconvene tomorrow, first meeting, second reading or whatever, before they pass it into law, you see that time is running out. The minimum wage law is usually enacted after the National Assembly might have deliberated on them.
It is sad. I don't want to believe that that the whole issue is politically motivated on where we're finding ourselves. And so, government coming to say they are gathering, or they are calling for a meeting, or they are trying to see what they want to do to see if we can get a figure. I think for me, it still can't call off the strike action that the Organized Labour Center is about to go back on, because we have made sacrifices, we've paid a lot of sacrifice to get to where we are today.
Well, Chairman of the Labour Party, Joseph Inderang, joins us now from Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for finding time to join us on the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Morning, Joseph.
It's 10 months now since Mr. President inaugurated that tripartite committee, I believe, involving government, labor leaders, as well as private sector employers. It appears that the President himself was quite clear that something has to be done as regards improving welfare of workers. Would you say that Labour has explored all other alternatives before considering strike at this time?
Well, under normal circumstances, Labour uses strike as the last resort. So it is the last resort that Labour resorts to when it comes to the issue of negotiations on collective bargaining. But I want to say that when the government of this country, the trending government, I mean the APC government, when they came to power, they promised Nigerians the dividends of democracy. And one of the dividends of democracy that Nigerian workers were expecting is nothing other than a living wage. And as the laws have it, every 5 years, there should be a review of the minimum wage in Nigeria, as the law provides. But the last review was made in 2010. And in 2015, there was supposed to be another review. But the then government of PDP mistakenly misplaced their priority. They refused to discuss the minimum wage, and you knew what happened to them in that 2015. What actually happened was that Nigerians kicked them out of office. And when APC came, they were supposed to pick the issue of the minimum wage as a very serious issue. In 2016, they did not consider the minimum wage, and that was why at the workers' rally of 2016, the government representative that came to address the workers were almost lynched by the workers. That was what happened at the May Day celebration in 2016. So in 2017, when the government decided to set the tripartite committee in motion, workers have their hope that now a living wage is going to be decided for them. But unfortunately, along the line, only for the Minister of Labour to come out and announce that as far as they are concerned, by September, they are going to announce the minimum wage. September came as if they never thought that September was going to come. And when September came, at the meeting of the tripartite committee, they were shocked to hear from the Minister of Labour that the meeting was adjourned sine die. What do you mean meeting adjourned sine die? The culture of Nigerian Labour Congress is to always resort back to the various organs of the Congress, the National Administrative Council Committee, the Central Working Committee, and the National Executive Council. They had to always resort to them to tell them exactly what discussions are and where they are. So they found it ridiculous when the minister now said he has adjourned the meeting sine die. So Labour has no option than to use its right to resort. And they are about to see the border of old strike, because this thing is happening at a time when governors have refused to pay salaries, and now they want to seek to return back to office. So Nigerian workers are just waiting for them. Any governor that is not paying salary and he wants to now come back to office, Nigerian workers will use their PVC to show the government the way out, to show that governor the way out.
Okay. Well, it's been done before, so it can still be done again, because ultimate power belongs to the people. We have Cyril Abaku still joining us, staying with us here on the program. Cyril, there seem to be, we've heard comments from a lot of stakeholders who say that government seem to be playing politics with this issue of minimum wage, and even on the other hand too, NLC also trying to bring in the political part of things, because minimum wage was supposed to be due since 2015. 2016, nothing happened. 2017, nothing happened. And then we're looking at this at 2018. But government, on the other hand, didn't say anything about minimum wage up until now that we have elections.
Well, again, yeah, so because I was going to point out the issue of timing as well. It's close to elections. Without politicizing the issues, when I first saw that headline about government releasing money for airline and so on, something crossed my mind. Again, these are the issues, you know. But for me, I think that when the government ought to raise the bar in this matter. If every 5 years, like you rightly pointed out, the law says that minimum wage should be reviewed, it is because of time value of money. And because it is not just about the unions. If you look at what's going on, all the labor centers are united in this cause. The liberals, the Democrats, the progressives, okay? They are all united in this cause and saying that government has to obey. Because from what we understand, the committee that was working on the amendment of the 2011 Act, the one that was working on the main report, and the one that was working on, on the figures, mode, median, and mean, or something like that, had concluded had all concluded their reports. It was on the day, like again he said, that they were going to submit those reports and open them up for debate, that the minister adjourned the meeting, sine die. That's in very bad faith. For me, you see, when you cut the labor force and you want to give them what is their due, you are building. It is workers that help us to build our middle class.
Help us understand this. You meant that a figure wasn't arrived before that particular meeting was suspended. No.
There had been debates and discussions, okay? But, so these committees, of course, you hear them talk about violating the principle of tripartism. As at the time these figures were now concluded, okay, and they were now going to sit down to say, this is what we have.
Let's adopt this.
Let's adopt, exactly. The minister comes and says, perhaps because he sees that there's no other adjournment or there's no other, you couldn't shift the goalpost anymore. All the procedures that were to be undertaken had been undertaken. What was going to happen that day was for them to adopt and then perhaps make an announcement. And then it comes and says that the meeting had been adjourned sine die. What I'm saying is that, you see, in principle, Nigerians just look at the NLC, the ULC, the TVC. It's not about them. It is about the Nigerian middle class being built and being strengthened as the conveyor belt for the economy. That is one. Number two is the fact that in a country that has undergone recession, where basic infrastructure is lacking, where the Nigerian worker, even if you pay a Nigerian worker 100,000 naira today, it doesn't amount to anything very significant. But you have to improve what you're giving to him. 18,000 naira minimum wage today can, even if you lived under the bridge, Mike, even if you lived under the bridge, 18,000 naira cannot amount to anything significant for you.
In fact,
so to tell ourselves,
some even said that without the NLC or labor unions coming to say anything, government should even
be allowed on
its own say, no, 18,000 is no longer.
But amazingly, some people don't even pay the 18,000 naira that we're talking about. So the situation is
if you
more
go to
terrible.
Like Yobe, like Katsina, and Jigawa, where government has paid salaries, have paid gratuity. What is the agenda of those as compared to states in the southeast and other parts of the country?
That are not paying.
For me, I think that is a question of your priorities and fiscal discipline.
And the will.
How you plan.
Just a minute. Let's get back to Abuja very quickly. Let me take you back very quickly back to last year when the 30-man tripartite committee was inaugurated by Mr. President. He was clear to have mentioned that workers in the country must take into consideration the ability of each tier of government to pay its workers. And there's been a long-age discussion about moving the issue of minimum wage from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list to ensure that workers are also not cheated. For instance, Lagos State can afford to pay more than some other parts of the country. What exactly is Labour's position as regards this?
As far as the labor movement is concerned, Nigeria has no business in saying that they cannot, or any state of the federation has anything to say to the Nigerian worker that they don't have the resources to pay. The truth of the matter is that we have looted the funds of this nation, and we have rendered the nation. Nigeria today is called one of the poorest nations in the world, which of course is not supposed to be. We are blessed in our states, and we believe that every state has the power and has the capacity to pay the minimum wage. So it is unbelievable. You cannot remove minimum wage from the exclusive list to the concurrent list. That will not be acceptable to labor.
Are you considering in the fact that there is apparent financial inequality amongst the state?
Even the standard of living?
Yes. Yes. I accept that, and that is why the wage is called a minimum wage. It is the line, it is the basic line.
What it means, therefore, Joseph, is that for a state that can pay more than 18, because you need to also consider that there are states that can afford a higher minimum wage. Does that not baffle you at all?
It does not in any way. The truth of the matter is that the wage is called, the level is just called the minimum wage. That is the table line that each state can pay, and that is the last ability of every state. But if you have more resources like Lagos, you can pay more than that, which will be okay for your workers. Because the worker is the wealth creator of the nation. All that the nation has is created by the worker, and the laborer is worthy of his wage. So you should give them their wage.
All right, Joseph, let me stay with you on this. The minimum wage, like you said, the review of the minimum wage, like you said earlier on, was supposed to be due in 2015. Nigerians wonder why NLC or the organized labor didn't take all of these actions or pressure government to make a move towards the review 2016 and 2017 until now.
Well, you know, one of the most credible institutions that is still outstanding in this country is the labor movement. Now, you see, we have people in the leadership of the labor movement, people who are responsible, people who have integrity. People like Comrade Ayuba Waba and then Dr. Bala Kegama. They are people that, you know, they reason before they take decisions. And the organs of the labor movement are always contacted before decisions are taken. So they have decided to relax up to this moment. We expected that by 2015, the minimum wage discussions, the minimum wage would have been reviewed. But now that we have gotten to this, by 2020, we are expected to enter yet into another negotiation for us to have a review. But unfortunately, what is happening now is that even as it is now, with the patience of the labor movement, nothing has been done. They are now trying to say that the government is just slowing down on the issue of the minimum wage. And I want to say that it is the issue that is trending and it is burning in the heart of Nigerian workers. So any government that plays with the issue of minimum wage, they are playing with their political destiny. Because Nigerian workers are going to use their PVCs to oust any government that has no consideration for the workers of this country.
I like the point you're taking it from. If only that's the only avenue that you're exploring, that, okay, let's wait till 2019 and vote whichever government we're not satisfied with. But right now, Labour is threatening to shut down the nation's economy, and you know how bad that can be. But let's explore for a bit the reason the Minister of Labour gave to have suspended that committee indefinitely. He says it was to give room for further consultations with the government. Are there consultations going on with the government that you know of right now as regards this issue?
Well, as far as we are concerned from the Labour angle, you cannot be speaking from both sides of the mouth. Sometimes in March, the minister himself opened his mouth and said that minimum wage will be announced by September. And as at the time he was speaking, Nigerian workers were expecting that the government would announce the minimum wage during the May Day celebration. But they held their peace and said, okay, September will come. And now here we are in September, and all the touches have been made, only for you now to say that you have suspended the committee sine die. This is not palatable to the workers. Nobody is happy about that. So whether discussions are ongoing or not, is for him to know. It's for the minister to know, and whoever he is consulting. But as far as we are concerned, the nitty-gritties of the discussions of the minimum wage have been concluded. And all that is needed is the announcement.
All right, Cyril.
And that is what the workers are waiting for.
Okay. All right, Cyril, I like the way he, just like Difemi said, I like the way he puts it as to Nigerians and the labor and all workers will be waiting with their PVCs to express their dissatisfaction or to express their satisfaction depending on how all of this plays out. Is it enough point for Nigerians to take a decision over who becomes, who rules, depending on whether federal government or state government based on this?
I would like to say that ideally, we didn't need to come this far with labor. Not that is, we didn't need to have, government didn't have to have delayed this minimum wage issue up until now for us to know that their fate is already a fait accompli. By now we should have known that labor is completely, because we have just a few months to the election. So whatever you do now will appear to look like you are just trying to cut them for their votes, which labor should sufficiently have rebuffed by now. So, but that's not happening. And that brings us to, now, again, we should tell ourselves some home truth. That shows that somehow something is also wrong with labor. And Mike, we have to, just like they say, that people deserve the government they get, whether they will admit it or not. Labor also, after Waba came to power, there was a split within the labor movement. That also seemed to have weakened their ranks. And I can assure you that with the reports we get about labor leaders in the states frolicking with their governors and so on, you cannot entirely tell me that one labor center will sit in Lagos or Abuja and give instructions for people for how they're going to vote. I don't think it's going to happen. So somehow that may not entirely work. It may not wholly work.
No, you don't think the labor is that cohesive?
It may not wholly work.
They're not as unified as that.
As a matter of fact, if you look at the trend labor used to take between 1999 up until Buhari came to power, this will be a bit more fierce, a bit more direct, a bit more confrontational. But after the 2015 elections, I think that somehow their steam seemed to have weakened a little bit.
But don't you think that the issue of minimum wage is not limited to an association or an organization? It is an issue that resonates with the average Nigerian, and it is also a viable issue that will be put on the table come 2019 elections.
Well, an opposition party, for instance, or any political party really, can use that as a campaign tool. But you know that even in states where governors are owing salaries, people are taking money to vote. Mike, please. So there are very practical issues. What makes somebody come to a polling unit or to a polling booth or whatever to vote at the end of the day is always something maybe even sentimental, something entirely different. But what we are saying is that in reality, to delay discussions about minimum wage, you are undermining the well-being of the state. I was speaking with one of these labor leaders some months ago when he came to TVC. We had a private discussion. And I was asking him, I said, what you are fighting for, is it increase in monies you are getting per every month, or increase in the welfare of the state. They are two different things. The reason why we have to talk about jacking up the wages is because those things that the wage should address are not being provided by the state.
Yeah. So
the
even if the monies are raised, you're still going to go down the same way.
Here in the old Western region, they introduced a number of policies: free education, free health, minimum wage, which was fought across the country until the other region now said, I think that there's reason in this, and let's adopt it. They must go pari passu. So without a good transport system, if those things were being provided by now, the call for minimum wage would have doubts. But because those things are not being provided in the counterpart sense, Labour has to continue to fight and say, give us more, give us more. They are not Oliver Twist.
All right.
It is reality.
We don't have all the time right now, but let me bring Joseph back in here. Now, the Nigerians, on one of the papers today, Nifemi was drawing my attention. Yeah. The Vanguard newspaper today is saying, stockpile foodstuff. Labour tells Nigerians as strike begins on Thursday. Can you categorically let us know if there's really going to be, I know there's going to be a meeting today though, but what is the stance generally when it comes to the disposition to strike?
Well, for your information, the organs of the Nigerian Labour Movement, Nigerian Labour Congress has met, and they have received the necessary mandate to prosecute the industrial action, which has already been decided. And they are not playing with, they are not handling the matter with any kid gloves. The strike is going to be real if government does not move. And I believe that people within the corridor of power are deceiving Mr. President by telling him forget about everything, we are on top of the situation. But I'll tell you, they are not on top of anything. Labour is ready for a showdown. And if I were this administration, what they need to do is to gather their ass together and announce the minimum wage for Nigerians. And that will bring peace. That's the way out.
Just very briefly now, there are some who are concerned about the language of labor. Stockpile foodstuff, we're locking down the economy, we're going to show you. Just to clarify, does this has anything to do with the election here?
Of course, we really have to cash in on the situation. The government in power is seeking mandate of the people. And it is very timely for us that we will cash in on the situation to make sure that we get the minimum wage for Nigerian workers. You give us minimum wage, we vote you. If you refuse to give us minimum wage, we vote you out. That is it.
All right. It sounds and looks really interesting. One thing that our guest in the studio mentioned, Cyril, is that it seemed like the labor union or the labor movement is not as watertight cohesive as they used to be sometime, where some of the state chairmen or state chapters have affiliation with their governors and with other politicians, as the case may be. So when this an instruction is brought down, it seems like it's not carried out to the latter.
Well, let me quickly let you know this, that if you know the forces in this country that have tried to divide labor, we will not be where we are. They have used people even among ourselves who have infiltrated the system, who have nothing to do with the system. You know, but as far as we are concerned, labor is still very united. The only area of division will be on issues. For example, you can see how united we are as far as the minimum wage issue is concerned. And we deal with issues, like I said earlier, one of the credibly outstanding institutions in Nigeria today is the labor movement. Nigerians have absolute confidence in the labor movement. And any pronouncement from labor will be widely accepted by Nigerians because it is still a credible institution. So we are united.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph Ndiran, Chairman of Labour Party. Thanks for coming. There are still so many things we would have touched.
Exactly.
Cyril, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Pleasure, Mike.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to...
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
There's what they say in Yoruba, jebure.
Jebure.
You know what it means?
What does it mean?
I hope I haven't beaten
more than you can chew. All right.
It means please just take it easy.
Easy.
So that we don't shut down everything. It would not help anybody to have a strike at this time.
They say when two elephants fight,
It is the grass. The people you are fighting for to get more money.
Well, but like Joseph said, we're cashing in on the timing. Because the point there is, if you don't hold them now, later on, nothing.
Ambush them.
Exactly. If you don't ambush them now, when else?
So we're looking forward to both parties.
Yeah, resolving. In fact, that's the
issues.
most important thing. Resolving and then giving Nigerians what they deserve. Thank you all, gentlemen, for coming on the program.